Hello, I'm Iona here at the Titleist Performance Institute in South California with Lucas Bro, who's come to help me with the technical aspect of what's in my bag. Now, this is a bag that I've only recently got, so it's very shiny. It hasn't had nearly enough use, and Lucas is just taking a look at it now. But let's start with the big dog. Let's take the driver out. So of course, it's the TS2. It looks fabulous. C1, I don't know what that means, but I know it's got a stiff shaft.
Sure. Well, you've gone with something that's what we call an exotic shaft. So it's something that we offer that's not stock. Doesn't mean it's better or worse, no different. It's just what you ended up liking. The other part of it is what we label our clubs. So TS2 versus TS3. Essentially what you're doing is you're changing the position in which the weight is. So a TS2 has what we call back weight. So a very, very stable golf club head. So that weight is placed very far in the middle. The TS3 head has a different shape, therefore that weight is placed a little bit more forward. So it just gives a different look, different feel, different sound, and possibly different flight to play. C1, you're down a little bit in loft and you're a little bit flat in your line.
Interesting.
Why you like it? I don't know.
Well, I have a tendency to hit up on the driver quite a lot.
Okay.
So maybe like 4 or 5 degrees on the up. I'm trying to get that back down towards maybe 2, but I guess there's only 9.5 degrees of loft. C1 perhaps takes more off of that.
Just a little bit. So you're down at 8.75 degrees essentially.
So not a lot of loft, but again, that's probably to do with my attack angle.
Always, and that's why you're choosing an 8.5 versus a 10.5. The challenge in fitting is, can I add more than you can take away, or can you take away more than I can add?
Now, this is a 3-wood. I don't normally, I didn't have a 3-wood in my bag. I went straight to a 5 for a long time. Okay. But I've decided to put a 3-wood back in the bag, and I want to build a rapport with this club. What have we got? Well,
you've got, again, a TS2, so weight more positioned towards the back as opposed to the front. You have a B1 setting, so that matches your flatter lie angle, and you have 16.5 degrees. So it sounds like you're a player who typically might need a little bit more spin or a little bit of height. So the 16.5 degrees is going to allow it to spin just a little bit more relative to a 15 or a 13.5 degrees. So typically a player who has more loft in this club is looking for this to carry a distance and land a little bit softer. Whereas a 13.5 is for a player who's trying to maybe hit it off of a tee and keep it a little bit flatter and out of the wind.
I've hit this off the deck a few times, and I feel like it's a very easy club to hit. In terms of 3-woods, you know, a lot of people always bang on about how you can only have a 3-wood in the bag if you've got loads of speed.
No, not true at all.
It's not true. I don't have loads of speed, and I can hit this lovely. So we can just smack that one right out. It's also got a stiff shaft and a tensei?
Tensei, that's correct. So you've matched the 5-wood or 7-wood, depending on how you want to call it. I call it your second fairway metal.
Okay.
You start putting labels on it, and all of a sudden it gets weird. So again, you've taken it from 21 degrees and you've moved it down in loft into the C setting. The flat is still there to match the other 2 golf clubs. So again, TS2 only comes in a TS2. That weight's a little further back. So you've kind of spaced your lofts out so that your distances will also space out. Because you chose 21 over 18 degrees, that loft is going to help that ball get up in the air. Whereas some players maybe add too much loft, therefore they remove it when they start. So again, same shaft. That's pretty typical to go down that path.
It's really interesting about the Fairway Woods because recently I did a caddy a hole feature for Matt Fitzpatrick, and he just whacked out this 7-wood. And you think pros don't play like 7-woods. You think, you know, there's almost an ego thing there. But actually, you know, he was like, yeah, I'm pulling out my 7-wood. He hit that thing like 230 through the air. It was a spectacular shot. And so I think it's quite refreshing to just, what you say, maybe just call it like a second fairway wood.
Tiger Woods played a 5-wood historically all through his career. He was pretty good.
He was pretty good. There we go. Okay, down to the irons. We've got the pitching wedge to the 5, and then a little 4, which is a slightly different setup. So,
all right, so what typically happens is, again, when you're fitting, you're thinking about how do you piece together a set of clubs. So again, we started from the top and working our way down. So you have T200 golf clubs, a little bit bigger in the chassis size, which means that they're longer in the blade length, they're wider in the blade length, and they're taller in the blade length. Anytime the chassis gets larger in size, it goes faster, more ball speed. That's why your driver's the biggest, then your 3-wood, then your 5-wood, so on and so forth. When you get up to your 5-iron, my guess is when you hit a 4-iron, your flight starts to dip a little bit and get a little low. You can't quite create the distance separation. So what you do is called unsupporting the face. This construction of this U500 is hollow inside, so it has a trampoline effect, adding even a little bit more ball speed, a little bit more pop. So that ball speed gets the ball higher in the air. But you can see the chassis size are very similar. So oftentimes you never see them getting smaller as you go higher, but you see them getting smaller as you get down towards the Vokeys, which we're going to venture to.
Yeah.
So you as a player go all the way down to this club into 48 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's where we kind of piece together the next part of the puzzle, which is what wedges did you pick? Make sense?
That's it, yeah. That
Awesome.
4-iron goes higher than any other 4-iron I've ever hit in my life. So the U500, what a club.
I love it.
So down to the wedges. We've just had a new fit today actually for the SM8. I had the SM7 in the bag and new wedges coming out, so Lucas is taking care of me, and it was pretty exciting actually. A beautiful wedge, stable, softness, moving away from a graphite shaft into steel again. But what we got?
So what we started with was, again, we're starting from our 48 degree pitching wedge. So we went to a 54 and a 60 degrees. So these are our current SM7 wedges. When we tested the 60, we determined we liked 60 degrees. So we hit all the shapes, all the different grinds that we had essentially in different lies, sand, tight lies from the fairway. And we still determined that our 60 degree in that L grind was the best option for us. So no real change in the 60. The big thing that we did though is because this recoil shaft is starting to go away for us as a manufacturer, we changed to a softer steel, so a Nippon 950 regular flex shaft. So the big change that we made then was in the 54 degree. We had a little bit of a philosophy conversation in that we as a player weren't using the trailing edge or the sole of the club quite as effectively as we could. So we kind of talked about opening the club face just a little bit more than we're used to and use that trailing edge to move along the turf. So what we found when we did that is we went from a 54M into a 54D. So 12 degrees of bounce as opposed to 8 degrees of bounce. So very similar shape, but adding that angle in the bounce being higher allowed you to feel that trailing edge.
Yeah.
Resulting in better shots, more confidence, and finding their way in your bag.
Lucas, you're a legend. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
That's what's in my bag.